Welcome back, pre-algebra. We're in lesson 122. We're going to talk about something called permutations. Permutations is similar to outcomes, but not exactly. It has more to do with single items being rearranged and the possible arrangements of those items. We call those permutations. So I'm going to illustrate that with the letters A, B, and C. If I took the letters A, B, and C, I could rearrange them only a certain number of times until I had arranged them every possible way. So let's see what we can do. If the first letter I put is A, then I can rearrange this so that the second letter is C and the third letter is B. So now if I put the first letter as B, I could write the second letter as A and the third letter is C, or I could write the second letter as C and the third letter is A. If I write that the first letter is C, I could make the second letter A and the third letter B, or I could make the second letter B and the third letter A. These are all of the possible permutations or arrangements of these three letters possible. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible arrangements. So we could put any of the three letters first, which would give us 2 letters possible in the second position, and then only 1 letter possible in the final position. When we multiply those options together, we get 6. And that is true regardless of what 3 things it is. If we have 3 things, then there are only 6 different ways that we can arrange it. So that is called a permutation. That there are 6 permutations. My pen is just not doing well today. 6 permutations of 3 items. And we get that by using the calculation known as a factorial. And a factorial looks like an upside down exclamation point. Is it upside down? No, it's right side up. So it is the exclamation point on your calculator. That is a factorial. So what you would do to calculate that factorial is you could put in, let's see if I can find it. Here it is. This is your factorial. You put in any number. Let's put in 3, and we press the factorial button, and it tells us 6. There are 6 possible outcomes for that. All right. So that is what the factorial button is used for. It tells us, it starts with the number that we type in, and it calculates the number of permutations possible. So if we had a factorial of 4, we had 4 items, we could calculate that. The answer would be 24. And the reason I know that is because if I were to add the factor 4 here, 4, all of this equals 6, 4 times 6 would be 24. Your factorials never change. They're always the same. The factorial of 3 is always 6. The factorial of 4 is always 24. And if you want to know the factorial of 5, you just multiply 5 times the factorial of 4. So 5 times 24 would be 120. 6 factorial is going to be 6 times the factorial of 5. So 6 times this would be 720. And we could check that on our calculator. So let's say the factorial of 4, 24. The factorial of 5, 120. The factorial of 6, 720. So you see how that works. You just take the next number and multiply it times the previous one, and that's going to give you your factorial result. But what you're really doing is you're saying 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 equals 24. In the 5 factorial, you're saying 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 equals 120. And in the 6 factorial, it's 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is equal to 720. So that is how all you have to do is take this next factorial and multiply it times the one you've already solved which would be this one. So 6 times 120 is 720. So 6 factorial is 720, right? So that's how you can do that. You can actually memorize these. So the factorial for 2 would be 2, because 2 times 1 is equal to 2. And the factorial of 1 is just 1, because 1 isn't multiplied by anything else. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you only have one thing, there's only one way to arrange the one thing, and that's by itself. So there's only one permutation. If you have two things, you could put, let's say we have thing 1 and thing 2, you could either arrange it 1 and 2 or 2 and 1, and that would be it. So you'd have 2 permutations. But with 3 permutations, we have a greater opportunity. With 4, you have an even greater opportunity to rearrange them because you have more things. So that is what permutations is all about. So let's do a couple practice problems with permutations. I'll clear the page for us. And let's do 122.1. And I am going to write this up for us. So 122.1 says, Mary has 8 different books. How many ways could she arrange them on her bookshelf? So if she has 8 different books, then she has 8, a permutation or an 8 factorial of the books, right? So we would just use the factorial method. We would say 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which would equal 40,320 different ways that she could arrange those books on her bookshelf. Can you imagine? 40,000 different ways that she could arrange those on her bookshelf. She has 40,320 permutations or arrangements of those books. And if we check our calculator and we do the clear, we say 8 factorial 40,320. It is always the same number. So if you have 8 of anything, there are 40,320 different arrangements that you could put those in. It's kind of neat when you think about it. Let's look at another problem. All right, now in the second question, it says that if Mary chose 3 books at a time from her 8, in how many different orders could they be arranged? So she's only selecting 3 books of her total. So she's making a row of 3, but she has 8 to choose from. So we would just start with the highest number, which was 8. So we would say 8 times 7. So if she picks the first book out of the 8, now there's only 7 to choose from. So she picks a book from the 7. Now she's going to pick, there's 6 left, so she's going to pick a book from the 6. That's her order. She's picking 3 books. So she could pick any one of the 8, then any one of the 7 left, then any one of the 6 left. But she's going to stop at 3. So this is her permutation. She is going to multiply 8 times 7 times 6, which is 336. She's not using all of the books, so that limits the number of arrangements she has. She's only using 3 of the books, but she has 8 books to choose from. So she has 8 different books that could be the first one. And after choosing that, she has 7 different books that could be the second one, and then 6 different books that could be the third one. So we multiply in that order, and we get a total of 336 possibilities when she's choosing 3 books from 8 and how she could arrange them. So we're still using the factorial, but we're limiting ourselves to whatever the specifications are in the problem. So look at the total number and start with that and count down until you reach the limit that is self-imposed upon the person in the story. All right, so she's just, maybe her bookshelf isn't big enough for all 8 books. Maybe she can only fit 3 on that bookshelf. Maybe that's it. All right. So that is all we have for lesson 122. We just wanted to talk about factorials and permutations. And I will see you in our final lesson, lesson 123.